Hi guys, so today I have a bit of a different video for you. I will show you what I'm currently working on, and I am not in my studio, I'm at home because I have a bit of a cold and trying to rest in between my painting sessions. So I wanted to show you what I'm currently working on, and you will let me know what you think about this video format. So I will now get a tissue and we'll show you my workspace at home, which is actually my kitchen. So we are currently in my kitchen, which you can tell probably, and this is normally the kitchen table, but it is the best table probably that we have at home, so when I have to work at home I prefer working on this table. This is the wall painting that I did a couple of months ago, and you can find a video about it on my channel somewhere. What I'm currently working on are two pieces for art show, and the topic is home. And it was such a difficult topic for me to wrap my thinking around, and I gave it a lot of thought and did a bunch of sketches, liked basically none of them. He's always messing up my paints when I paint at home. It's the one disadvantage of working at home. And came up with these two ideas. One is supposed to be, both are supposed to be a metaphor, and the first one is should be a positive feeling of home, and the other one, of course, negative. So I imagine this one more of a black and white and colder coloring type of piece, and the first one will be very like gardeny and warm and with a lot of plants in the background. When I was done with the sketch, it actually took me about 3 hours to refine it. Then I wrapped some like 8B graphite on the back of the drawing, and then transferred the drawing onto my canvas, so you can see it right here. See? Okay, so I cannot wait to start on this one, because I started with the one that I considered easier, but I have to start today anyway, because they need to be finished in like 3 days. So even though these canvas paintings are quite small, it will take me a lot of time to finish. We'll probably work through the night. Okay, and I will show you what I've done so far with this painting. Okay, let me just grab it. Okay, so I started on it yesterday with the first layer of acrylics to do skin. But you can tell that it is very messy and I really have to refine it. This is because I'm still learning this type of technique. Anyway, for the background I used watercolor, and to successfully do watercolor on canvas you would probably need a thing that is called a watercolor ground. And it is something like a gesso, but not quite. It is supposed to turn your canvas into a paper-like material. But of course, it never behaves like paper. I even applied 3 layers, and still, when you apply watercolor on this type of like prepared canvas, even then the watercolor won't suck into the canvas. When you paint watercolor on paper, it is really required that watercolor sort of gets into the paper a bit, gets sucked into the paper, not quite, but a bit. And it is very important, because if it doesn't get sucked in, then you cannot layer, that's the first thing. and the other canvas just behaves differently. And usually when you want to achieve these kind of effects with watercolor on paper, all that you need is sometimes to just lay down clean water on top of like semi-dry wash of color. And these effects would occur, but on canvas, like nothing is happening sometimes. What is happening is that even the area that is dry, and when you apply a wet area next to it, the color from the wet area still travels to the dry area, which is something that does not happen in watercolor. In watercolor, if you apply a wash that ends here, then water won't go into the area that is dry. It will stay in the area that is already wet. But canvas it has a different structure. So I applied watercolor and it traveled a lot. So these marks I will have to fix, but this was not a disaster. What was a disaster is that when I woke up this morning, that I had the watercolor in here everywhere. So I did not plan to have this area black, and I will have to... No, at first I thought that I will be fixing it, but then I realized that maybe it will help me to convey the thought a bit better. So I will probably keep it. I will have to fix it around the figure though. This cannot stay the way it is. And also the darkest watercolor possible that I could find was not dark enough, so I had to put a little bit of ink on top of the watercolor. So I just used like this India ink, and it turned out nice. I like this black, that's just very nice. Okay, so this is what I've done so far, and I have 3 like full work days, maybe even work nights to go through. And okay, so maybe I will show you the type of acrylics that I have in here. I am not as experienced with acrylics as I'm with watercolor, but I still got a couple of brands, because you never know what you need and what you like if you don't try enough. And of course then nobody has like unlimited funds for experimenting with art supplies, but I've collected these over the past 8 years, because from time to time I still tried acrylics, even not that often, but yeah. For example, the first acrylics that I've gotten were these Schminke. These are Schminke Academie, which means these are acrylic paints for students, and they are nice. And I've besides trying them, a lot of artists were giving good reviews about them on the internet. The one thing that I strongly dislike, I don't know how about any of you that has tried it, but I've experienced terrible things with the kind of package they have, because when you... sorry, to open this somehow, my other hand... Okay, it doesn't work, but you see, it's like the tube is very weak in material and the cup is very strong, so when you try to unscrew the top, this happens. And when you do it a couple of times, then it will crack in here and the paint will probably dry. So that happened before. So yeah, they are not expensive and they are very nice to work with, and actually, yeah, I would consider them being a very high quality acrylic paints, but the packaging is very poor. That's what I don't like. It was not very practical. The other paints that I got were golden. These are, I believe, American-made acrylics, and these are the most expensive acrylics that I have. That's why I only have 5 tubes, but Oh my god, are they amazing or what? They are really incredible. They are pigmented, just it is like comparable with oils even. This red is purely amazing, even though it sort of bothers me that it is glossy. I rather wanted a matte paint, so I will have to look for another red because this really shines. It has like a very strong shine. This golden acrylic paint comes in handy when you want to add like metallic details. You don't have to use like gilding and like leaf gold on canvas. If you don't want to, this is a very good alternative and it's very shiny. Yeah, and the paint is very rich in pigmentation and has a great consistency that allows you to mix colors nicely, but it is also very expensive. I don't remember quite how much is one tube. It also is not one price. It depends on what type of color you pick. And yes, they are really incredible. They're great to have. Just you probably will be able to just buy a couple of tubes. So this one I bought just recently. These are Winsor and Newton acrylics. I also only bought like 3 tubes because I wanted to try them out, and they are great. They are, I would compare them probably around the level of these Schminke Akademie, and were not really that expensive, I believe. And the last are these My Mary. I'm hoping that this is the way it is pronounced, Polycolor, and they are Italian made. I saw Agnes Cecile working with them, so I wanted to try them out. And yeah, they're quite nice, not very opaque. So if you're looking for something like if you want really opaque white, then probably you should buy from like maybe a golden one would be better or something. They're fine, but not as opaque. If you are looking for pastel tones and not as expensive acrylics, these are fine. And I prefer the glass ones just because, I don't know, I don't like tubes. So these are my acrylics, and I am hoping to test them out quite completely before I'm done with this painting. Oh, and one last thing that I wanted to mention. You probably noticed this effect that I achieved on the canvas, and I'm so very happy about it. It looks fantastic because I tried to do the salt effects or the regular watercolor effects on canvas as well, just like I do on paper, and it didn't work for me like ever before. Especially salt was very hard to achieve, but yesterday evening when I was applying this dark wash of color and nothing was really looking good, and I went to the kitchen and I grabbed something like this. It is a dishwasher salt. I did not invent it. I'm sure that somebody has used it before, but it has these large crystals, and I put them into the wet wash and let it dry completely, and this worked. So this was the first salt that worked on canvas for me. Okay, and okay, so maybe you will want to try this in your work as well. So I hope that this is helpful for you. So today it was a bit of a longer video, and thank you for sticking with me, and I hope that it was interesting for you. And let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you still haven't, for future updates. And I will see you next Wednesday, since now I'm uploading every Wednesday. So I will talk to you next week. Bye.